friends and fellow VEDSies. It is the one time every year, I feel like this happens every year, where Jeffrey wears his DFTBA shirt in a video, and then I remember that I have the same shirt, and then I make sure to wear it in a response video, because, hell yeah, shirt buddies. I would do this, but I can't. It's really hard. The shirt appears to have, well, I may have gotten larger in these last 10 years. My bad. But, yeah, it's not a new shirt. Anyway, hi everybody. These last couple years that I've been in VEDS, I've been really happy with being a regular commenter on all of y'all's videos and getting involved in the discussion, and I have just not done that this year because I was very busy and I got really behind on y'all's videos. Sorry about that, but I thought I'll spend an hour or two and I'll catch myself up on all the VEDSies videos. One thing led to another. It actually took me about 5 hours. I was a little bit more behind than I realized, but I am now fully caught up with everyone's videos. I had an excellent 5 hours. It was really cool to pretend like I was being productive while I watched YouTube for 5 hours. That was pretty sweet. But I really enjoyed all your videos, and in lieu of leaving a comment on every single one, I'm going to make this little video that will also act as like my week 2 recap. Okay, so I'm not going to limit myself to one video for each person. This video could get a little long. I'll try to leave time codes in the description for when I start talking about your videos so that you don't have to watch the entire thing if you don't want to. I will start with Abbey, who, like everybody, but especially, did some fantastic work this week. I wanted to talk about a few things you did. I even enjoyed your videos, like your video called and your I Want to Scream video, and your I even enjoyed your I Need a Break video. I thought you explained that really, really well. But first of all, I'll talk about the video you made about ghosts. That was really cool. I liked your little ghosty flip book. I was curious. I got the vibe that you don't necessarily, like, believe in the supernatural, but at the same time you're, like, really fascinated by it. I might be interpolating because that's very much how I feel. I'm not trying to say you're wrong if you believe in the supernatural and things of that nature. Just the way my brain is wired, I never have been a believer in that sort of thing. I believe that people are not lying about the experiences that they claim to have had. I believe the human brain does really amazing and wild things and searches for patterns in any way it can, and certain things can present themselves as being out of this world. But in any case, perhaps I'm taking too strict and logical an approach to this. But I love, like, there's restaurants in Vancouver that date back to the late 1800s that there's all these stories online about how they're haunted. And while I'm not able to take those as fact, and I've never experienced or seen anything that I would describe as, like, a supernatural event or a ghost sighting, I still get those little, like, chills when I read articles about people's experiences. And, like, in that specific one, there's one restaurant, the Old Spaghetti Factory in Vancouver, that I forget what it is, but it has one of the old trolley cars that the city of Vancouver had over 100 years ago, and it's in a location that used to be something else 100 years ago. I don't remember, but there's all these ghost stories about the place I was reading, and how there's, like, a little girl who runs through the aisles, and the staff knows her name, and all these little stories. And while I don't, like, believe them necessarily, like, I can't do that in my brain for some reason, the experiences are real enough that it spooks me out in a really cool way, and I seek out stories like that, and I love that. So I'm wondering if you have a similar relationship with that. But Abby, I'm still not done talking about your videos, because I have to talk about I Long to Be the Wind, which, no offense to everyone else, but that is the video to beat for the month so far as I'm concerned. Not that it's a competition, but that video, I am notoriously bad at putting into words how how things make me feel, but it made me feel stuff, man. I actually had to. That was when I took a brief break in video watching and took a shower while I thought about the feelings that I had while watching that video. Uh, First of all, I want to thank you for putting that disclaimer at the beginning because evidently you're a phenomenal actor because would have fooled me. It was a seemingly very real depiction of an asthma attack slash episode, and yeah, that combined with the again, you've all will have seen this video, I would assume or hope. Um, so I'm doing a terrible job of explaining how it made me feel because I can't really explain how it made me feel. Other than that, it was deeply moving and quite upsetting, but in like I don't want to say upsetting in a good way, but in a very captivating way. Upsetting because you were doing the job you were doing very well, and it felt like a very real. Yeah, you could feel the longing for just a fresh breeze of air. My most of my family has asthma. I've been lucky as to not myself. Um, but yeah, my sister and dad have gone through that and stuff, so that was pretty heavy. But it wouldn't have had the resonance that it did with me if it weren't done so phenomenally. And like I said, spectacular acting. I was really blown away by that video just all in all. It like kind of took me back for a little bit, and it was amazing. Just like my favorite video of the month so far by anybody. And now, after I've said you're better than everybody else, we move on to everybody else. No one's better than anyone else. That video was just spectacular. I'm going to move through the alphabet here over to Alicia. Alicia, the video I wanted to talk about most of yours was just the bread. The bread making video. Alicia loves to make peasant bread, loves to cook in general. Fun fact, if Alicia loves you, she will cook for you, and it rules. It's just the best. But yes, I don't know. There's something about cooking videos that are very soothing. I enjoy watching people's process, and even though I'm not a very patient cook, not a very good cook, I enjoy just watching people go through a recipe, and yeah, I don't know, it's a very zen activity. So I really enjoyed that. Your meditation video as well. I've made sort of sputtered starting attempts to do some sort of meditation, typically at the beginning of days. I've never gotten really into like a regular schedule of that sort of thing. But my main problem with that is just that I feel like I don't have any clue what I'm doing. And so it was nice to see just your method and what works for you. Maybe I'll try some of your tips. That might be nice. And yeah, you've been telling me about all your work updates. And yeah, it's been so nice to see you at a place that doesn't quite stress you out as much as the last job, and it's just, yeah, I know your professional life had been a source of stress the last few months, and it's just been really cool to see you with a fresh new start, really enjoying where you're working. That's a very important thing in life. So yeah, I'm so happy that you found that job. And then finally, about your list making video, I feel like I'm the opposite of you. I tend to make lists when everything's going great, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this and then this, and I've got this sorted out, and I'm going to do that. There ain't no way I'm making a list on a day when I'm having maybe a shitty day from a mental health perspective. Then I'll just always feel behind and like I'm panicking to do even one thing. So it's interesting that you consider that like a bare minimum self maintenance thing, whereas for me it's like probably I guess because I don't value list making as much as I should. I'd probably be more in line if I did more of that. But yeah, for me, it's like an over the top when everything is going great. It's certainly not on a baseline of something I make sure to do when I'm having a bad day for me. So, but again, I probably should. It would probably be better for me. Caleb, what a shock! You made a video about music and albums this week, and I'm gonna talk about it. Shocker, I know, but I've never heard anything by public service announcement before. But you talk about their music with such reverence that I'm gonna have to go in and listen to those albums. They sound like such a fascinating concept. Something I would never even think of to like focus on a story or a historical event and make a whole album out of it. Or something they've done multiple times. And I know you're struggling with, like, I just want my whole top 10 to just be public service announcement stuff. You clearly love them so much, but yeah, I never heard any of their stuff, but you really did a great job explaining to a non-listener what they were all about and getting me really stoked about it. So I'm gonna do that. Yeah, and yeah, you put 9 to 5 in there. Alicia actually introduced me to a podcast called Dolly Parton's America that I just absolutely love. I listened to it again on the tour with Leenie, and it talks a lot. I think it has a whole episode that's mostly focused on 9 to 5 and the ensuing movement. It became like a battle cry. So I don't have that album in my collection. I'd really love to own it, but glad that got ranked pretty highly. I know you're talking about how, as a Tennessean, it was your duty. And then, for your Some Like It Hot video, I know that ties into one of Tessa's videos she made about her top 15 movies list. But that reminded me of your film podcast that I also have not yet listened to, but am having a shortage of podcasts to listen to because I deliver pizza when I'm not driving long distances to my music gigs, and I'm just constantly in the car and in need of things to listen to. And you do the podcast about sort of old Hollywood. Sorry, I had to look it up just to be sure. It's called the Snub Club. It's you going through year by year movies that did not win. Did not win Best Picture or did not win an Academy Award at all? I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it yet, but sounds right totally up my alley. So sorry, that's not even really a comment on your Some Like It Hot review rather. But just that I really enjoy you talking about old movies, and it reminded me that I would really enjoy that podcast and have to check it out. Hopefully next week when I do my review video, I will also dig into your podcast and review that a little bit because I'm really excited to listen to that. And then you also made challenges, Caleb. I'm tired, guys. Just so you know, I watched so many VEDS videos that I had to go play a gig before I could actually film this video, so I'm doing this after I get home and it's 2 a.m. So if I'm a little spacey, that's why. Caleb, you also issued some challenges. You wanted me to talk about hip-hop history, which you had mentioned maybe that's something you don't know anything about, which I hate to inform you that is true. There are a few... Well, I'm sure there's a bunch of music genres I don't know very much about, but hip-hop is one of them. I just wouldn't be able to do enough research on the history of the genre to do it this year, but, I've had a blind spot to hip-hop for too long. I have sketched it into my notes for VEDS 2024 that you had issued that challenge. So if I get around to doing any pre-prep for VEDS next year, maybe I'll dig into that a little bit. So yeah, not something I foresee doing in the next 2 weeks here, but certainly a cool idea. And then for everybody, I actually didn't realize when I watched Abbey's video that it was in response to your Elements challenge, because again, I watched all the videos out of order a little bit when I was catching up. But that's really cool. An Elements challenge for me, it would be, you mentioned the element that is not a band, i.e. water. yes, I love being near water, on the water, all that stuff. I think I will be doing a video related to that in the next couple weeks. That was a really cool idea. And I don't really do a lot of like atmospheric, laid back videos, but I may try one. On to James's videos. I feel like it's been a bit of a common theme this year that all of us are having a little bit more trouble getting our videos up on time. I know I, as of today, will officially be a day late for the first time, and we've had a few people having that problem. And everything I just said does not appear to be applying to James this year. James is on an absolute roll. We have a new series started with the Let's Riff commercials, and a series sort of semi-rebooted with the pilot something. Sorry, pilot obscurities. Guys, it's so late. But, yeah, those have been awesome. You made 2 episodes of the Let's Riff commercials this week. The Bill Cosby one, which you did a great job doing a really funny send-up of that commercial, which honestly probably can't be easy with the difficulty in making a man who's, well, I was going to say his life is so not funny. I mean, his life was dedicated to being funny, but, you know, more than allegations, the convictions under his name are terrible and hard to make light of, but you really kind of danced around that in what I thought was a very respectful way and made a video that I laughed very hard at. And you made another Let's Riff commercials, but I don't know. It's fallen out of my head. Maybe it'll come to me.
Head on. Apply directly to the forehead.
Had to throw it in if y'all weren't sick of it yet. We didn't get that commercial up here in Canada, but I can see how that would be infuriating upon your 341st watch. This week you also reviewed the other Disney cereal, which was very cool. Oh yeah, and in your pilot obscurities show, that Yo Gabba Gabba thing is a little bit existentially terrifying. Anytime you have a low budget show with like non-face costume characters, you're just in for a bad time. It's just, especially geared towards kid shows with people in costumes on a low budget. Almost nothing you can do. It's gonna be creepy, and creepy that pilot sure was. Just wow. And then finally, you gave us 2 more fan dubs this week, which we all know you play a great villain, and you did that again this week. But honestly, the most impressive one for me this week was your Shrek fan dub. I know you made a bunch of apologies in it because you're dealing with a different accent, and you don't want to, of course, offend anyone by doing it wrong. But you know what? I thought you did so well. That is a very challenging accent, and to me, someone who is very not Scottish, it sounded pretty natural and pretty darn good. I congratulated Abbey on their acting skills earlier in the video, but obviously you do a bang-up job of that as well. There are times when I kind of drift in your videos and have to remind myself that, oh no, you're not just watching Disney clips, that is James, because even if it's not the exact same voice that did the original movies that we remember, it fits right in, and part of that is due to your acting talents, and part of that is due to your video editing talents as well. Those videos always amaze me. And yeah, I thought you did a better Shrek than you're giving yourself credit for. That was awesome. I'm going to move on to Tessa's videos now. Jeffrey, I have not forgotten about you. You covered a heavier topic that I figured I would address at the end of the video here. It just felt natural for some reason. But Tessa, you also, of course, responded to Abby's video about ghosts, and I just wanted to comment on the beautiful piece that you wrote and back for graduation years ago. You were talking about that you then read for us. That was a very moving piece. You're a great writer, of course. I mean, you're writing a novel. You've finished it, or at least been really close to finish it. I forget exactly where you are with that. I think you said that you've been just in the editing process, going through draft after draft, which must be tough. But shocker, the writer is good at writing. But that really blew me away. And you made some challenges. You asked me if I could talk about some people that really influenced me. And I mean, the musicians that I talk about mostly, the like 5 or 10 that I really talk about a lot, are my biggest influences, really. But I'll give that a little bit more thought and think about who has shaped me into being the singer / performer that I am, and sort of who I take cues from. I'll put some thought into that and mention it in a future video. But Tessa, my favorite video from you this week was your Scooby-Doo reboot concept. Some really fascinating insights about those characters that I had not really thought of before. You pitching the idea that, look, they've all come together through their shared neurodiversities. I never would have thought of it that way, but you described it in such a, not just like a clever way, but a very natural way that, like you said, should this reboot be something that was actually to be made, it really wouldn't feel like they were stretching these characters to try to fit, like you're not really going for a new spin. You've just found a really interesting way to sort of explain the backstory of who they are as people. And yeah, very natural to all those characters. I thought you had particularly interesting insight into Velma's character. Everything you said about Velma seemed totally spot on to me. And yeah, I don't know. I never got... from what limited Scooby-Doo stuff I watched... I mean, I watched that Scooby-Doo Where Are You show a lot as a kid. I almost never got the vibe that they were just naturally close friends. They felt a little bit more like coworkers to me. But I like this concept that they were friends before being on the Mystery Machine team. What are they even called? I forget now. The hell. Anyway, I like the concept that they were friends before and they found each other through their sort of shared experience in life. That is very, very cool. I liked your 15 movies list. I like that Sky High made the list. My sister loved the movie Sky High, and she insisted I watch it. And it's one of those ones that, for some reason, it's not remembered. Not that it's not remembered well, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's on the mainstream A tier of movies people mention a lot. You brought it up. I was like, oh yeah, Sky High. I haven't thought about that movie in a long time, but I remember really enjoying it. I took a film studies class in high school. You mentioned taking a film studies course at some point. I will admit that it was totally just to get 4 credits by watching classic movies. I was certainly interested in like the history of film, but yeah, more so it was just, I'm going to sit here and watch movies and get credit for it. And I don't know, I'm coming up with a lot of VEDS ideas and I'm running out of time, but I part of watching that video and you talking about the film studies class kind of reminded me that I was asked to write a paper at one point about an actor that I thought was very important and whose body of work was very important, and to basically explain why. And I picked John Candy, and she gave me a crappy mark and told me that basically I made a bad choice and that he was like not a suitable actor, and I want to make a video about why she's wrong and why John Candy is amazing. But yeah, I watched actually some of the same movies you watched in that class, and it really opened my eyes to so many classic movies. So I had relived some memories of that while watching that video. Your D&D video you made of your new characters, it was cool to get caught up on their lore and their stories, and you get so in-depth into the backstory of those characters. It's a really cool thing. I know Alicia has said previously in VEDS that her, how did she phrase it? That her ignorance towards D&D is getting towards the point where it's a little bit willful at this point. I've like attempted to be a part of a couple of D&D campaigns that have sort of started and never really gotten off the ground. But this is kind of, bear with me here, but it kind of almost reminds me, I was trying to think of parables to D&D that I've experienced, and it's in many ways nothing like it at all, but I just remember being a kid, and we're in Canada up here, of course, so we played a lot of like street hockey and stuff, and while it wasn't a D&D campaign, there were certainly some funny little continuities to the stories we'd make up in our heads about us as like hockey players, that like, because you'd play the same 4 other kids on your block 58 times, but you'd make up these crazy backstories that like, okay, this one is like game 3 of the Stanley Cup final, and we're down in the series, and we're Chicago, and you're Vancouver, and we're gonna play each other, and there would have been this whole, like, we'd have somehow found a way to create an entire league with complicated storylines and like things that happened to our teams and stuff like that. And when a player wasn't able to show up that day, we'd invent a backstory about how they got injured and were out for this amount of time, and that team was going to have to survive without them. So it's not D&D. We didn't have D20s or anything. I guess the probability rolls were just the way the ball we were using bounced that day, but in a weird way there's a parable there. So again, sorry to go off on a little bit of a tangent in talking about a couple of your videos here, but it just kind of reminded me, I'm always, like, I've never gotten really into a D&D campaign myself, but I'm always so fascinated when people tell me the scope and the lives that have been lived within the game. It blows my mind. And I'll finish with Jeffrey here. I say this every year as a response to you making those great video series where you go through song by song, like Holy Musical, Batman, and Mr. Greg and all that stuff. I always say, I'm going to watch those so that I understand the source material and am more able to appreciate the reviews, but I never seem to get around to it. But I still enjoy seeing your thoughts and seeing you go through song by song. You've made quite a few video series like that now, and you were keeping them up in between VEDs, which was really, really cool to see. Oh my god, the cat dog video. So, cat dog, I had the most vague memory of it when seeing clips of it in your video. I can't decide if all I know is I saw some little clip of it at some point when I was a kid and was like, I don't like that. I am not watching that. Like, it creeped me out. I was just like, no. I can't remember if like I was scrolling through channels and I saw it when it actually aired, or if I just saw a promo for it, or if I saw the clips later online. I don't even know. I just had a vague, very distant, long ago, semi-visceral memory of being like, no, that's no bueno, that's creepy. And I don't know, there's something unsettling about it, like you said. The whole thing with the teeth, I didn't like any of that. I really like the video you made about it, but yeah, something unsettling about that. What a talented voice cast, though, and of course, yeah, I understand why. I guess it's one of those things that's developed sort of a cult following over the years, but I have not seen it, and yeah, just a funny little memory of being a kid and being like, "What is that? No way, I'm not." It was creepy. I can't explain it. But as my phone hits 5% here, I wanted to dedicate the majority of my time in your little segment of this video in talking about your coming out video, which has rightfully sparked many, many responses. I really love the open discussion I've seen in this community of a very difficult issue. Jeffrey, I admire you for the courage to talk so openly about, or to all of us, about your feelings on gender. And I suppose I'll talk a little bit about mine, as everyone's been very open this week about it. I never put too much thought into it. I certainly am cisgendered and pretty confident of that. Yeah, never had any um, doubts about that. I always felt very comfortable with that. But I know Alicia, in her response to this topic, said there were certain little things where she'd get sort of a feeling of, I don't know if pride is the right word, but just feeling really like really enjoying feminine terminology and embracing femininity, and I've never really felt that way about my masculinity, because traditional masculinity sucks so bad. So like growing up, I was never like the most manly of guys, and growing up it was something that you kind of, wasn't a huge amount of bullying at my school for me, luckily, but yeah, I was. You get made fun of a little bit. You know, I've always loved sports, but I never felt like I fit in with the sports guys. I never like to generalize too much, but boys' sports teams and locker rooms and stuff tend to be the most traditionally masculine environments. You get into lots of like, obviously, these are competitive sports, so there's a lot of competition involved. And I was never particularly comfortable in a sports sort of locker room situation. In high school, the only class I frequently skipped was gym. I just because there was just so much. Everyone was like, "This is high school, so this is dumb teenage boy stuff." But it was always like, who's strongest, who has the best body, and we're gonna, not necessarily, I don't know if bully's even the right word, but we're gonna like make fun of you if you're not as good. And I was never very good. I have horrible like hand-eye coordination, and am generally bad at sports, so I got made fun of a little bit for that, and I just didn't overall enjoy it. I'm getting off topic. I was just saying that I don't know if I feel a lot of pride per se in my gender, but it's certainly right for me in the way I feel on a day-to-day basis. One thing that's interesting is while I am cisgendered, I do have a certain experience with being misgendered in life, oddly enough. Obviously not as much as someone who is experiencing any sort of gender dysmorphia would feel, but I've had this long hair, for example, for a long, long time, since I was a little kid. I grew it out at like 11 or 12, and in those sort of puberty years, it would happen just all the time that someone would see me either from afar or even up close. I mean, going through puberty, you know, you're just being very young. I would get a lot of people just assume I was a girl. Funny, I was just talking about sports, but I wound up refereeing for hockey for a good amount of time, and I refereed girls hockey for a time, which didn't help. Because I'd have the hair flowing out of my referee's helmet, and people would be like, "It's so nice to finally have a girl ref." But I don't know, people. So I've had the experience of having people assume my gender incorrectly, and it's I would never get angry at anyone for it. Obviously, it's always just an honest mistake, but I couldn't explain the uncomfortable feeling kind of surrounding it. It doesn't feel good for someone to sort of tell you, hey, that person that you think you are and you feel like you are, that's not how you're presenting and not how I see you. I wouldn't have been able to articulate that at the time. But yeah, I'm not here to say I understand what transgendered people are going through, because I've experienced it too. But just in that small little way, I've sort of felt the way that feels to not be seen, even if it is just like someone making a little mistake just quickly. Yeah, it's still, by the way, when I deliver pizza, it happens occasionally with elderly people, just for the record, that somebody would be like, "The pizza girl is here," and I still get that same feeling of like, what? I've, and not that I sometimes I'm too introverted to even correct people, but I mean, the second you start talking to me at this point, people get it. But yeah, that doesn't feel good. So it was always very easy for me to come to terms with the whole just refer to people using the pronouns that they'd like to be referred to, and it just helps them get through life a lot easier on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, no, a really important topic that you brought up, Jeffrey, and hopefully I've made any sense whatsoever explaining my thoughts on it, and I hope I've made any sense whatsoever in this extremely long video in general. It is so late. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you've somehow watched this entire video, thank you for doing that. And I will see you all tomorrow and every day for the rest of this month.